When I was coming out of a coma, it was a slow process. For a while, I believed that I was dreaming, you know? And people kept telling me, no, you're not dreaming, Meg. You were in a bad car accident. But I just kept not believing them. But then finally I said, yeah, I guess you might be right. I guess I probably was in a bad car accident because this dream is never ending.
When I came out of the coma, I don't really remember anything. I couldn't think, you know? I couldn't understand. I don't want to remember, but my family does. Scared out of them.
Coma is one of the most misunderstood medical conditions. And the truth about coma is often far more frightening than the myths.
I think there's a misconception that people are going to emerge from a coma is going to be like a Hollywood scene where they all of a sudden are going to wake up and everything will be just fine. It's a very slow process usually, and it takes a lot of energy from the patients.
Yadi, so right now you're at JFK Medical Center, right, in Edison, New Jersey.
Ahora mismo estás en el hospital que se llama JFK, John F. Kennedy, in New Jersey.
This acute brain trauma unit in northern New Jersey is one of America's leading centers for coma recovery. Many of the patients here were in car crashes.
Show Lauren. Lauren, look. Look. And show Lauren, look.
Rebecca Mulligan is a model. Her mind is struggling back to full awareness with her sister's help.
Yadi, why are you in the hospital?
Yadira Zamora has been here for 2 months.
What kind of accident?
¿Qué accidente tuviste?
Like most people recovering from coma, she has to learn to speak again.
Accidente. ¿Tú ibas en qué? ¿En qué?
She can't yet walk.
Yeah,
Ajá,
a
muy
car
bien,
accident. Okay, but you're here for rehab and you're getting so much better.
A coma often takes you back to square one. Following a serious head injury, your brain can close down temporarily. This is coma, the first acute stage of impaired consciousness.
The brain is in a state of shutdown. It's not operating in a way that allows the person to respond to any kind of stimulation. It's a result of brain swelling and chemical changes in the brain that prevent the thinking brain responding to its environment. Because of this, the person appears to be asleep.
Coma generally lasts for up to 4 weeks. Then, depending on the severity of your brain injuries, you either die, slip into a vegetative state, or emerge. This is Lindsay Schwartz, a 17-year-old patient filmed at JFK Hospital just as she was starting to emerge.
First, she opened her eyes. You know, she would open her eyes occasionally. And you would look in her face. She would look right at you. But you could tell, you know, I could move over here, and her eyes wouldn't follow me. They'd just be, it was like a blank stare, you know.
Contrary to popular belief, emergence is not a sudden process. It can take weeks, even months.
There was a stage where Lindsay started biting, and that, for some reason, I don't know why that got me, but that got me, I guess, because it seemed so animalistic to me, and it was like, you know, where is her brain that she's biting?
The therapists try to coax patients back to full awareness of the real world.
Match up this, Lindsay. What do you do with this? They gave her a toothbrush or a hairbrush, and she put it to her mouth, so that was seen as a good thing because at least she knew it was a brush and it went somewhere up near your head, you know. It really was almost like a rebirth, going through stages, but at an accelerated rate. I don't know why, but I felt like it was going to take time, but that Lindsay would be Lindsay again, you know.
I couldn't believe I made those actions. I was totally like limp, you know? I couldn't believe it. People say to me, isn't it upsetting watching the tape and it's really not because look where I am now, you know? Look at my progress. I can't believe it.
Take a step. That's it. Ooh. Good. That's it, girl. Come on. There you go. Good. Don't move there.
Most people emerge within a month, but for those who do not, a second lighter state follows. The vegetative state.
The brain has certain vegetative functions that keep us alive. The old parts of the brain, the deeper parts of the brain, are involved in maintaining blood pressure, maintaining breathing, maintaining hormonal balance, things like that. And people in a vegetative state, those parts of the brain are still working. It's the thinking brain that is not working. It's like a living death. Awful state to be in.
Way back in 1984, Terry Wallace became vegetative. After 5 years, his chances of emergence were less than 2%. His family refused to believe that the real thinking Terry wasn't still in there. But the vegetative state can be deeply misleading.
The majority of people in a vegetative state are able to open their eyes. They may display eye tracking movements, which suggests that they are looking around the room. And it is often very distressing to have to explain to families that what they are seeing is not a meaningful response, but a reflex response.
In other words, the thinking person you knew might not be in there at all.
Lots of parents simply refuse to give up. They will reject what you say. And of course, sometimes they are right and we are wrong.
Angelie, Terry's mom, was right. After nearly 2 decades, Terry started talking again.
Nurse asked him, "Who is that?" He said, "Mammer," and I knew right then. I knew there was Terry. That was Terry. Because nobody, for 20 years or 19 years, nobody called me Mammer.
Terry is a world first. Here at JFK Hospital, specialists are anxious to examine him. It may be that Terry Wallace holds the key to other patients in a vegetative or minimally conscious state.
Ready, Terry? Pick your head up.
We don't know how many other Terry Wallaces are out there, and the big question is what could be done to spur this process on earlier? In other words, is there something that we can do to take this idling brain system, in other words, a system that's got the capacity to work but isn't working for some reason, and can we turn it on?
Will doctors be able to discover what switched Terry Wallace's brain back on? And what hope does he have of ever achieving a full recovery?
It's all about the O and the...
Dr. Giacino, a neuropsychologist, examines Terry's memory.
But you're still not buying that this is New Jersey, huh? You know, I live in New Jersey.
I live in Arkansas. a hillbilly and proud of it.
I live in Arkansas. I'm a hillbilly and proud of it, too.
Do you have any children?
No, I have no kids.
You don't have any kids, okay. So today I met somebody named Amber. Who's Amber?
A baby.
A baby? Can you step up? So who is this?
Girl.
A girl. Okay. Do you know her name?
But Amber.
Must be Amber.
So that's Amber. You know what? You had Amber 19 years ago.
No.
She was a baby 19 years ago, and she grew up. He's lost the capacity to retain new information. His brain still holds a lot of information that he had learned before he was 19 years old, up to the time he was 19 years old. But at the time of injury, his brain lost this capacity to store new memories.
Terry remembers just about everything up to 1984, and almost nothing afterwards. Dr. Jeetsi has scanned Terry's brain to find out why.
The encoding of memory, the creation of a memory that will be remembered long term, occurs in the temporal lobes.
There are two temporal lobes, and both are responsible for storing memories. If one temporal lobe is damaged, your memory will not be affected. The second one should still do the job.
As we look at this scan, we can see both temporal lobes. Here on Terry's left is a healthy appearing temporal lobe. The white matter is clearly defined. The gray matter appears plump and full. On the other side, his right side, they are shrunken and atrophied.
This is Terry's withered temporal lobe. But his second temporal lobe is normal. So why isn't it managing to encode new memories? This empty space at the front of Terry's brain is the key to all his problems. His frontal lobes were badly damaged in the crash.
The frontal lobe runs all the way from here to the very frontal tip of his skull, and this dark area is where he has lost the cells of his frontal lobe.
The frontal lobes help process the experiences that are ultimately stored as memories. Because Terry's frontal lobes are so damaged, nothing he experiences ever becomes a memory. Instead, experience washes over him and instantly fades away. So Terry thinks he can walk when he can't, because his frontal lobes can't process the information that his body isn't working anymore.
So you really don't remember flying in the plane a couple days ago? No recollection of that, huh?
The frontal lobes are the control center for all the other parts of the brain.
You really did it.
One of their functions is censorship. They screen out our primal instincts such as sexual urges and aggression.
But you were in Arkansas a couple days ago.
I'm in Arkansas and I'll break your nose if you keep telling me I'm in
All right. Okay.
Sometimes he'll say the F word, you know, I want to F you, and I'll be like, Daddy, now you can't say that, stop it, I don't want to hear that. I mean, with somebody like him, you could get so frustrated, but it wouldn't help you or him, so you just gotta go with it. And I still wish he remembered me, but it doesn't really bother me. You know, I just know that that's the way it is, and, you know, that's the way it's gonna be until we can fix him.
But can Terry ever fully recover? Next, the Wallaces are moving on to New York City, where world-leading scientists will continue to examine him. They aim to uncover the secret of how Terry regained the power of speech after 19 years. They also hope to tell Amber if he will ever be able to truly acknowledge her as his daughter. Terry Wallace sustained his injuries in a crash that caused massive damage to his brain. Car accidents are the most common cause of traumatic brain injury because impact jolts the delicate brain inside its hard casing, the skull.
What happens in a car accident is that the brain whiplashes back and forth on the neck and on the brainstem, and the brain bounces forward on the front of the skull, and it hits the ridges of the orbits and tears the frontal lobes, and then it bounces back and hits the back of the brain, and that's where sight is, and then bounces side to side, which is where language and memory. So you get a combination of injuries really to all parts of the brain.
In car accidents, one part of the brain is always damaged, the frontal lobes, just behind the forehead. These control the highest functions of the brain and largely define who you are.
The frontal lobes are the most vulnerable because they are crushed up against the inside of the skull. If we take the frontal lobes out, you can see that it's a bit of a hostile territory as far as the brain is concerned. And because of the movement effects that occur within the brain at the time of these accidents, the underside of the frontal lobes are scraped over these nasty, sharp, bony edges. You only need a pinprick, and there will be devastating, lifelong changes.
2 years ago, Roy King of Monmouthshire, England, was in a minor car accident and banged his head. He was unconscious for just 10 minutes. But the Roy who came home that day was different.
Well, first of all, I thought it was shock. You know, didn't think much of it. I thought it would, you know, sort of get better. But the more I looked and watched him, and the more I sort of studied him and lived with him, it was like living with a different person. You know, much different. So, yeah.
Outwardly, Roy is the same man he was before the crash.
On the deck here.
A CT scan revealed no visible injuries. The damage to his frontal lobes is microscopic, but it has erased the most important part of him.
Some people, as a result of brain injury, lose that essential spark of humanity. They are not able to relate to others in a way they did before the accident.
Okay.
Since the car accident, Roy confesses to having lost the capacity to love his wife and son. He lives in an emotional void.
You feeling any better?
It doesn't bother me in what they do, really.
Bit rough.
Sure. Yeah, that's it. It's hard to explain because it's hard to explain about something which I'm not doing, if you know what I mean. The feelings aren't there to what they used to be, so it's hard to explain about something I'm not feeling anyway. So.
Mm.
They can be quite selfish, egocentric. They don't display any warmth or concern or care for others. They lose the ability to experience pleasure, and to some extent they lose the ability to experience pain.
Your bag? What's in your bag?
And this means that they just
Pardon, Mummy?
lose out in life.
Roy recently decided he wanted to leave his family. but Claire has been insisting that he stay.
We've been through a period, haven't we, where a few months ago where you didn't want to be with Max and I. You felt like you didn't need us, did you?
No, it's only to make your life easier.
But
I could, rather than put them through it, if I was on my own, it wouldn't have a problem then. They could do what they wanted, get her love or whatever she needs somewhere else.
Well, no, that's not what I want. I don't want him going off, you know, on his own. He's here, he's part of this family, and as a family, we tackle this head on. It's the kind of decision you have to make. You either walk away because you can't handle it, or I think I decided that I was going to do my best and tackle it head on. It's not his fault. He didn't bring this upon himself. None of us did.
Claire and Roy have been together since they were 17. Their son Max was born 3 years ago. The new Roy, like many people with frontal lobe damage, has difficulty censoring his basic impulses.
Violent thoughts are a lot stronger now to what I used to have. Joke about, I'm gonna kill you, messing about it, but I think I could now.
Roy can no longer work because of his problems with self-control and concentration, and Claire supports the family. He's verbally abusive and has alienated many of their friends.
If I think about it too much, I think I'd crack up. This is really hard to accept. Really hard. You know, really hard.
Claire is not alone in her situation. There are thousands of people just like her, struggling to love spouses who have been dramatically changed by traumatic head injuries.
Sadly, the incidence of divorce is much higher than the average population. And usually they occur 4 or 5 years after the accident, by which time the partners begin, the uninjured partner is beginning to realize this is it. I'm not going to wake up one morning and find out that my partner has recovered.
It's only 2 years since the accident that changed Roy, but perhaps Claire will manage to buck the trend. Claire is committed to try, for the sake of the old Roy she still loves.
Well, because he is such a nice guy, you know, and I think he just deserves, you know, the best that we can give him. You know, we shall do that. I shall do that. I will. I try to. You know, I can only do it to such a point where if it started to get detrimental to me and Max, then, you know, we think again, but...
Claire is determined to stand by her man, whose personality has been changed. In America, the Wallace family is also determined to learn if Terry's memory will get any better, and if Terry will ever recognize the daughter who disappeared from his life almost 20 years ago.